guess. Thank you.
Text me on this number for the next one. This is Jill.
Judge, I have 9 a.m. I actually have 9:01. We're recording, and Cody's going to take care of the uploading and the broadcasting live.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I don't know who said that, but we heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, Kenneth. Kenneth, we heard you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the Barren County Fiscal Court. This is August 24th, 2021. We are Barren County Fiscal Court. We're meeting this morning, Tuesday morning. The meeting will take place via video teleconference. The meeting will be broadcast, shown live, delayed broadcast on Barren County KY Facebook page, or Barren County KY YouTube page, or Glasgow EPB Channel 6. Any citizen wishing to comment or participate in this meeting is encouraged to contact the office of the Barren County Judge Executive, 651-3338, prior to the meeting date, so accommodations be made to secure those comments. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Jeff Botts.
Here.
Trent Riddle.
Here.
Carl Dickerson.
Here.
Tim Coomer.
Here.
Mark Bowman.
Here.
Dennis Sarton.
Here.
Billy Hutchins.
Here.
Here, thank you very much. In adoption of today's orders, we did not get the administrative and budget committee reports put on here, so we will need to add that in the adoption of orders of today. So I entertain a motion, those being the 911 follow-up proposals, the VK technology quote for the drug task force, and the purchase order to approval of the sheriff's training. So I entertain a motion to adopt the orders of today.
Motion.
Second. Mr. Botts, second Mr. Bowman. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Riddle.
Yes.
Mark Dickerson.
Yes.
Mark Coomer.
Yes.
Mark Bowman.
Yes.
Mark Sarton.
Yes.
Mark Hutchins.
Yes.
Mark Botts.
Yes.
Tail.
Yes, thank you very much. So today's invocation will be given by Magistrate Mark Bowman.
Okay, let's pray. Our Father and our Creator, as we bow before you, we're reminded of your awesome power each day that you grant us, and thankful that how you provide for us and sustain us, and just all the blessings that you give us. Father, we pray that today that you'll be with us as we make decisions for the county. We pray that each decision that we make that would be pleasing in your sight. Help us as we serve our county, that we be humble servants, that we listen with open hearts and open minds, and we treat each and every person that we serve here in Barren County with the utmost respect. Father, at this time too, we want to remember many in our community that are hurting, that are dealing with COVID, they're dealing with other sicknesses and illnesses. We just pray that you wrap your loving arms around them and that all can be well. And Father, too, we want to remember those that have lost loved ones. Want to remember Jenny, and especially this morning as she has just lost her father this morning. We pray that she will seek you for strength and comfort. Father, we know that you're a God of compassion, God of love, and God of comfort. Be with us. Thank you for your Son, that precious blood that he shed, and the cleansing power that it has. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, we'll stand for the pledge, please.
States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Justice. Liberty for
liberty
all.
and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone. We have quite a few folks that are on this morning. If you're not speaking, other than if you're not a court member, you're not speaking, I ask you to just keep your mics muted so we don't have any feedback. If not, I believe our controller can mute you at any time. So again, welcome everyone. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 20th and July 27th, 2021.
Make that motion.
Mr. Kramer,
Second.
Big Master Bowman's. Any changes, corrections, deletions, additions, subtractions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Hammer,
Yes.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Botts,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you very much. Announcements following this meeting will be the Barren County Public Properties Corporation meeting. It'll be immediately following today's adjournment. So the court members that are members of the public properties will not have to log off, log back on. Just stay right where you're at. Is any magistrate have any announcement in their respective districts?
District 2, the Etoil Fair is going on this Saturday, August 28th. It'll kick off Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with the ham breakfast, and it'll run all day and all the way up to when the horse show ends. That's usually pretty late in the evening. So invite everybody to come out. It's always good.
Any other districts have any announcements? Okay, we'll move on. We'll go into reports. Obviously, my report. We were going today to talk about the audit findings. With Jenny not here to answer some of those questions. And that was the audit for June 30th, 2020. Court members, you should have had plenty of time to look over. We will take questions if you have any. We'll try to get those answers for you. If you have any now, go ahead and ask.
The only question I have for you, Judge, this is Carl, is why did we have to see that audit on television before we knew about it? As far as that's where I first saw it. That's the only question I have. We got it on the 10th of June, and I saw it on television. It's when I saw it, and I just wondered why it was like that. Did y'all not tell us for some reason, or is it just oversight, or what was the reason for that?
Jenny received it, so that would be a question she'd have to answer.
Okay.
Any
I
other
guess
questions?
I have a question, Trent. What steps have you taken this year to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, Jenny had reached out to the auditor to do that audit, to be on here today. I'm not sure where that communication is. I do know that we do have a different auditor each time we have an audit. They do look for something different each time. I think one of the most important things is that there's no money missing. That should be the most important thing. A lot of it's just in-house stuff. We've talked as a administration group to try to take the steps to move in the right direction. But next year's auditor may come in and say, "Look, you shouldn't be doing that." So it seems like it's something different every year.
Judge, this is Mark. My only comment would be, when the audit, after the audit's been performed and then sent to the treasurer, then there should be a report to the court to explain those findings. And then the necessary steps, as Trent said, to not have that reoccur, hopefully.
Yes, and you all have a copy of that audit, correct?
I do.
I think,
Yeah.
yes, I think there were 3 items that the auditor listed. Is that correct?
Yes. That's the way I see it.
Okay. Well, I personally think it would be good, and I understand the circumstances with Jenny this morning, maybe delay this till next week, till next month, and just let her give us a report on that.
Sure. If you guys would like to schedule a special call just for the audit, we could do that.
Judge Harry, you said, Jenny, you answered the auditor on every question he had. Did you not feel like the court needed to know about this audit before it came out on the television? Because you answered everything that they questioned, you answered it. So you as well knew that the audit was out there. I just didn't know if you didn't feel the need that you didn't needed to inform the court or not. And that's a problem I've got with it. I think everything's kosher, no question about that. But something that made our county come on Bowling Green TV and made our county look bad, and all of us being shocked because we haven't seen it. I just think in the future there ought to be more consideration to that.
Yes, and if you'll know, Magistrate, we only meet once a month. This is our first meeting. You guys have had this audit. I mean, I'm sorry it landed in the hands of the media versus.
We had a meeting in July, Judge. We had a meeting in July, Judge. And this was already out in June.
I don't believe our treasurer was ready to answer those questions then.
We should have known. Okay, so it comes on Bowling Green TV that Barren County's got a bad audit, and the fiscal court members do not know that.
Well, according to that auditor, it wasn't a bad audit. He said in the scheme of things, it was a really good audit.
Oh, really? Well, the television or the article I read, and we didn't know any different. Looked like to me it was a bad audit, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But we need to talk about it some more.
Yes, we can. Would you like to schedule a special call meeting just to talk about the audit?
We'll wait till Jenny gets through with her thing, because she'll need to be there, so we can do that.
Right, but today, would you like to schedule a special call meeting just to talk about the audit?
No, sir.
Very well. Hey, any other questions as it pertains to the audit? So, Madam Clerk, it seems like we've got 3 questions. Just make note of those questions. Hey, we'll move on. We have been talking about the purchase of the road department pickup trucks. We've had some trouble on the state contracting. We did talk to the gentleman yesterday. We're not sure if we can get trucks or not. I think that's just the way it is right now. And you order them, it could be 8 weeks, it could be 10 weeks, it could be 12 weeks, and then again, they really don't know. So we're going to take a different route. We'll be letting the court know exactly what route we're taking as soon as we figure it out. Okay, so we'll go right into the transportation. Yo.
Got this Trent. Is that the 1-ton trucks that we've ordered?
No.
Yeah, we haven't ordered any trucks yet, but that's exactly what we're talking about, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, it was two 1-tons and 1 2-ton.
One big dump truck.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to make just a short comment about that dump truck. I don't feel like we're getting the resale on our vehicles that we should be getting. Maybe because, we're not getting the word out. Maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe because the word's just not getting out there. Maybe we need to use a little different source. But also, I think that I'd like for the Transportation Committee to consider changing the color of our trucks from green to white, because I think a lot of people have a problem working that green truck into their fleet. I think the white trucks, the resale would be a little better. That's all I have. Thank you.
Now you're referring to these pickups, correct?
Well, the pickups would be white. I'm referring to the dump trucks.
Okay. Duly noted. Okay, we'll move into committee reports. Transportation Committee, Chairman Houchins.
The Transportation Committee and the Building and Property had a joint meeting August the 18th. And the Transportation Committee, we got only one item. God has found us a trailer to haul our equipment on, and it's trade-in. The only thoughts on it, I'll let him talk about if they want to ask him questions about it. I think it's 20 foot long, and they're wanting $12,000 to trade.
Sure. Scott, you want to explain that, please?
Yes, I went down to Trailer World in Bowling Green and found this. It's a paving trailer. It's made to haul a paver. It's going to eliminate us possibly tearing the paver up, loading and unloading it, the screed board on it. It's 20 foot and 5 foot, and then the ramps. So, and they want $12,000 between the trailers.
So what we're asking for today is just a motion to trade those trailers with the 12,000 and authorize the payment. That's what we're asking. Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Couchins, Master Sarton, any questions?
Which trailers are you trading in?
We've got this short 20-foot tilt deck, and that's the trailer that we're going to trade off. This trailer that we're trading for, we'll end up having 2 trailers here that'll be multifunctional trailers. We can haul anything we've got on either one of them. The little 20-foot we've got, you can haul the backhoe on it, but it's about all it wants. But the main thing is this screed board on this paver that we purchased. If you tear that screed board up, loading it and unloading it, it's going to cost you a whole lot more than what this $12,000 in switching, trading, getting a new trailer is going to cost. We don't need to tear this paver up.
Which tilt top? 20-foot tilt top. Is that one?
The 20-foot.
Is that one of the new ones that we purchased within the last couple of years?
Yeah, that's the first new trailer you bought at a price of $21,525.
And it's 3 years old.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't be in favor of trading that trailer off and paying $12,000. But what are they asking for the trailer straight out, Scott?
25.
We have $45,000 in the trailer.
Master Riddle, are you considering we just keep that 20-foot tilt top and just purchase this one for our paver?
I would think so. I can't see getting rid of that trailer. It's only 3 years old. We gave $20,000 for it, and I know it may be a little shorter, but we're giving that trailer away like that, or it seems to me like we are. I'd be inclined to maybe shop a little more for see if we can find a better deal on that trailer. I think we ought to have another quote or two anyway. Keep our trailer that we have and just look at buying a trailer straight out.
Okay, do we have any other questions on the trading of the trailers? Or is there any amendments to the motion?
I don't have a problem keeping the old trailer and buying one straight out.
Well, it's hard to me if it's up to Scott, that's according to if we need that other trailer.
That's true.
I mean, to me, that's the way I look at it.
Scott, what is the price of the trailer straight out?
He wants 25 for it straight out. 24.9 something.
25 or 12,000 in trade.
Yeah. So you're getting $13,000 out of your used trailer. And this is something else you need to look to the future at, because that's what I'm trying to do down here. You're purchasing 3-ton trucks. 2 of those trucks are with the flatbeds are going to be gooseneck ready. So you might think about that, you know, not now, but in the future, you may want to purchase a gooseneck trailer that doesn't require someone with a CDL license to drive it. I think we all know how hard it is to get CDL drivers and employees to begin with. But that's just something I like to look for the future, what you might be doing down the road. I don't see that you need more than 2 of these trailers sitting up here that have to be hooked to a dump truck and a CDL driver to operate.
think we need to get another quote on a trailer, but I think we need more than one quote on a trailer. And the people that we bought the tilt top trailers from have been very competitive. And I just feel like we need to have two quotes on that trailer, at least two quotes on purchasing the trailer.
Scott, how much you gonna be moving you gonna be moving the paver lot this fall, I suppose, are you not?
We're gonna run this paver just as much as we can.
So you'll be moving it a whole lot, won't you?
Yes, sir.
You know, Trent, I understand your need for another quote, and I probably think that's a good idea, but Scott's already told us we missed that part on the paver up, it's gonna cost us a whole lot more than $12,000, so my personal opinion is we probably need to go ahead and do it, because the fall's here, and it's not chip and seal season anymore, it's paving season, and I like that a lot better. So, that's my thought on
it. Any other questions?
Well, rather than wait and waste a month looking for a trailer, we can get this, excuse me, get this trailer out of Bowling Green tomorrow. That might save the pavers creek for it.
Well, and to answer Trent's, you know, I agree with Trent, but now I've done a lot of calling, a lot of talking, and looked at a lot of trailers online, you know, and this is the best deal I could come up with on these trailers. This one's right down here at Bowling Green. The rest of them I've looked at, you've got to go to Ohio or Florida or someplace like that, North Carolina, just to get them.
I believe the trailer that we have, the 20-foot tilt top trailer.
Yeah.
I believe that trailer will bring more than $13,000. I may be wrong, but if it's in good shape, and I'm sure it's been kept in good shape, I believe that trailer would, because of the way everything has inflated, I'm not sure that you can't get $17,000 or $18,000 out of that trailer. I thought it was $13,000 for it myself. Let's vote. Call the question.
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Sarton,
Yes.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Botts,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
No.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the Administrative and Budget Committee. Chairman Botts.
Yes. Got 4 line items here. We're going to go with the first line item. I've got 911 follow-up on a proposal. And we met with our committee and we unanimously for a request for $50,000 to come out of our general fund for their request of that. And I just make a motion that we give the 911 $50,000 out of our general fund.
We have a motion.
Second that.
Who made that second? I'm sorry.
I will, but somebody already made it.
Master Bowman. Questions, discussion.
My question is, if I'm understanding this right, this is going to give everyone a $2 an hour raise at the 911 center. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's correct, Tim. They just asked for the $50,000 and and I should have added that we're thinking with the records that they're keeping that this money's going to probably we're going to be able to get it out of the alcohol money, the taxes on that, with the records they're keeping. So it's going to be, I don't know how to answer that because I'm not managing their force, but they just asked for the $50,000 and that's what our committee said that we would do.
So we have Mayor Armstrong on, and we also have Beverly and April on. And then in reference to your alcohol money, Sheriff Keene has done a little recon on that. So Mayor or Beverly, either one of you all want to comment on the what the raises will be with this 50,000?
If I can unmute my mic, I will.
We hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hear you.
Okay. Between you all and Cave City, we've already given 911 a dollar raise, but
You're still muted, Mayor, and we didn't hear a word you said.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We gave 911 a dollar raise for the beginning July 1. And when we asked for or they proposed to get it up to where that dollar raise made it almost where it was 5 years ago, because they had been pulled back. But the 50,000 from you guys, the 20 from Cave City, both together made up a $2 raise across the board. It didn't pay for anything except that $2 raise, and that was 68,000 and some dollars is what that totals up to. And by doing that, that gets us up there in ballpark of what it should have been 3 or 4 or 5 years ago instead of going the other way. But that being said, hopefully that'll be enough to get new people in there and get people in there to stay. But the alternative was to cover the $2 raise, and then from this point forward, it's not that we're going to give them more money, but it would just cover that same amount out of the total, whatever it is, $1.1 million a year total salaries and expenses. So total salaries and hourly wages. So with that and Cave City together will make up the difference enough that we can give them $2 across the board, if that answers your question.
Is that just not the minimum, Mayor? That's for everybody that works down there?
That's everybody that's there in the center, correct?
So, okay, thank you.
Well,
Any other questions?
I think that's, whatever they make, they earn their money, but my recommendation would be, since it wasn't budgeted for this year, of course it's everybody's opinion that we donate $25,000 this year for $1 an hour raise or whatever that would make it, and then look at it next year in budget time. But that's just my recommendation.
Is that a motion? Squire?
Yes.
Are you amending this motion?
Yes, I'd like to amend the motion. Amend the motion, please.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, we will roll call vote on the amendment. The amendment is for 25.
Okay, so read the motion as amended.
The motion is from Squire Coomer, second by Squire Dickerson, to amend the motion that we donate $25,000 this year and look at the next year at the budget time.
So we're only voting on the amendment. for the 25. Now, the main motion of 50 is still on the floor. So this is just the amendment.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Squire Bowman. Squire Bowman.
No.
Squire Sarton.
Yes.
Squire Houchins.
No.
Squire Botts.
No.
Squire Riddle.
No.
Squire Dickerson.
Yes.
Squire Kimmer.
Yes.
Judge Hale.
No. Amendment fails. So we'll go back to the main motion. Any other questions on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Sarton.
Yes.
Squire Houchins.
Yes.
Squire Botts.
Yes.
Squire Riddle.
Yes.
Squire Dickerson.
Yes.
Squire Kimmer.
Yes.
Squire Bowman.
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you very much. Chairman?
All right. Okay, we're going to go down to the drug task force. They asked for a PO for some BK technology for some servers, some computer stuff, I guess, lack of words, and that's going to come out of some of his collections of what he collects and when they do the drug runs. However, that's line item. It's not out of his budget. It is in a fund that he has the money for, and that's for $6,217.72. And I make that in a motion that we do that PO for the BK Technology Professionals.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Second, Patrick Houchins. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Houchins.
Yes.
Squire Botts.
Yes.
Squire Riddle.
Yes.
Squire Dickerson.
Yes.
Squire Kimmer.
Yes.
Squire Bowman.
Yes.
Squire Sarton.
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Chairman?
All right. Going down the line item, and our last one is consider purchase order approval for Sheriff's Department yearly training. I think that's $7,000, and that is in his budget. And I'm going to make that in a motion, and anybody can discuss after my motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second, Master Comer. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Botts.
Yes.
Squire Riddle.
Yes.
Squire Dickerson.
Yes.
Squire Kimmer.
Yes.
Squire Bowman.
Yes.
Squire Sarton.
Yes.
Squire Houchins.
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Chairman?
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Building and property, Chairman Comer?
Yes, the first item of business would be the West Main Street building construction project. We found out we need to go through some more hoops before we start that, but we have a presentation by the Alliance Corporation, and if you don't mind, I'll let him take over.
Okay. We have Matt Gum on this morning. Matt, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Judge, if you don't mind showing that from the desk of Kyle Boston that has the numbers on it, but I will go over those so that everybody knows sort of what's going on. Basically what would happen here is that the county would enter in to an agreement with Myers Architecture out of Versailles, Pogue Engineering out of Lexington, and SE Engineering out of Bowling Green. Those three entities would provide the county with drawings, specifications, and scope of work for the West Main Street building project. And at that time, those would be deliverables to you all, for you all to then provide those to individual bidders to provide lump sum general contracting proposals to the county. Alliance Corporation. This is something we're just doing just to help you put in contact with people that do this type of work in this size of buildings. The proposals, as you can see, if you can see it, Myers was $4,950. Pogue was $5,000. SE Engineering was $7,900. That total would be $17,850. You do have the option of a deduction of $2,100 from SE Engineering if they did not have to provide a full design and they just provided a narrative for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing bidders to bid by, and then those bidders would have to provide design build services. So you can choose one or the other, which way to go. I would recommend for the difference in the $2,100 that you go with the whole amount to SE Engineering. That will allow you for smaller bidders, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing within our community or other communities to provide quotes on this and not have to provide design services themselves. That is the information as I have it at this point. I would entertain any questions that I might be able to answer at this time. And thank you all for letting me present these items to you.
Any questions?
Matt, I've got a quick question. I saw on some things I got in on email today. It had a design of the building and showing if we wanted to make the changes in that design, would that be something we would meet with these folks with before they did the final bids?
Yes, sir. At this time, this is the design that you're seeing, sir, is a very schematic design. So, yes, sir, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know we had set aside $20,000 in the budget this year for getting started on this project. From my understanding, there's no way out of doing this stuff. Someone let me know it's not like building a barn on a farm, that we have to go through a few more hoops. So it would be my recommendation in my motion. We had 20,000. This is total 17,850. I think we need to do the full design scope so we can use local smaller contractors if possible. So it'd be my motion that we accept this.
Do we have a motion?
I second that. Botch or Dickerson, either one, it doesn't matter. Botch did it.
Okay. Second by Master Botts. Any other further discussion on this? Call vote, please.
Squire Riddle?
Yes.
Squire Dickerson?
Yes.
Squire Coomer?
Yes.
Squire Bowman?
Yes.
Squire Sarton?
Yes.
Squire Houchins?
Yes.
Squire Botts?
Yes.
Judge Hale?
Yes, thank you very much.
The next line item will be the old jail demolition project. I'll go ahead and let the RBS Design Group make their presentation, and then we'll talk about some bids on asbestos removal.
Yes, sir. This is Kyle Abney with RBS Design Group. We have the document for
Mr. Abney, your reception is not good at all.
I've got some.
Chairman, if you wanna move on to something else, we can come back to that.
Pretty much what he was going to tell us that we've all received maps of what we're trying to do. We need to, first of all, do the asbestos removal. But what they're planning on doing is removing. We're getting bids on removing all the old jail, everything on site except the old Quonset hut. I think the boiler may be the only thing they have to remove as far as asbestos, maybe a few other things, but and then coming back in and resodding or reseeding that whole area, leaving the parking lot, blacktop parking lot. And is there anything else, Judge, or any of the other masters that I'm kind of leaving out?
I believe you covered it.
And I received three. I'm sorry. Can anyone understand? I can't even tell who that is. I can't understand.
It is Mr. Abney, but no, sir, we cannot understand him.
Mr. Abney, maybe if you do take your video down, if that would help any, or not, would it, Gracie?
He don't have his video up. I think it's just poor reception.
While we're trying to work with that too, I want to go ahead and I got 3 estimates for the asbestos removal. One from IMAC Environmental in Calvert City, and one from Matrix, and then one from Interstate Environmental Services. Pretty much covering the exact same thing, and the cheapest bid was from Interstate Environmental Services for $4,858. I'd like to make a motion that we accept that bid for the asbestos removal, and so we can get going with this. They're ready to start pretty much any time that we okay this, but I know we'll have to wait probably some more for the design team to approve that. But my motion would be to accept the Interstate Environmental Services bid on asbestos.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second.
We have a second, Master Botts. Any other questions on this? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Cooper,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sark,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Guys, I think my connection may be better now. I'm sorry. This is Mr. Abney with RBS Design Group. If there was any questions that I missed, I apologize.
If you want to go ahead and repeat what you were going to say, that'd be great. And
Okay, we got the documents prepared, ready to go to the print company and get those distributed to contractors to accept bids on the demolition. We've got drawings and we've got project specifications. And in those project specifications, we have the grant agency's documents that we have to use to bid the project by. And we've included their requirements in our bid documents. So we've sent those to Katie, the documents. And at this point, we just need the approval from the fiscal court to move forward with printing the documents and having those distributed to the contractors to accept bids for the demolition. We do have to establish with the judge a couple of bid dates, a pre-bid that would be on site to let contractors look at the situation, look at the building and ask any questions and us make any type of addendum to the contract documents for the demolition. And then a couple weeks later, we can accept the lump sum bids for the demolition and the remediation to seed and straw the site, any areas that was disturbed by the demolition work, so that we've got a clean green space once the contractor is off site.
Okay, Mr. Abney, we just, while you were disconnected, we went ahead and approved asbestos removable contract. Is that okay that we went ahead and decided on that?
Yes, sir. And like in my documents, I have it shown that the asbestos that has been tested and present would be removed prior to the contractor taking over, other than the suspected area in the boiler that may contain asbestos, but we will not know until we work with the contractor and the asbestos abatement contractor to set the boiler out so that they can get access to the boiler. And at that point, if there is asbestos, then he will have to go through the process to abate it, and then the demolition contractor can remove the boiler.
Thank you. Hearing this, I'd like to make a motion that we allow them to go ahead what they need to do to get this ball rolling. That'd be my motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Couchins. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sarton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Watts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. Chairman.
The next item of business would be courthouse lights. I think the judge knows a little more about this. I think we've got some pretty dark spots around the courthouse at night, and with the invention of LED lights, we think we can improve that tremendously for just safety of our pedestrians and safety of any events going on. We have a estimate. I'm thinking this is from EPB. Is that correct, Judge? Anyway, I think that's who it's from. Construction labor, they've got a, I'm sorry. Construction labor, we have an estimate of 12 hours at $857.64. Trucks and equipment, 12 hours at $43.03. Materials and handling for $600 for a total of $200.87. And I think this is something that definitely needs it. So I make a motion to accept this and the lighting around the courthouse.
Do we have a motion?
I second that.
Second by Mr. Botts. Is there any questions on this?
Yeah, just a discussion, Judge. We need to make it clear that the AOC is not responsible. It's on the grounds. That's correct, isn't it? That's what we talked about. The lighting's on the grounds. It's not having nothing to do with the courthouse.
That's correct. This has nothing to do with the courthouse.
All right.
What was that total again, Tim?
$2,187.
Thank you. You were breaking up.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sarton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Watts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer, Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. Chairman.
painting quotes. As we all know, our house is in desperate need of painting or with metal. It's pretty embarrassing, actually. Thing definitely needs to be done. We've received estimates. We're really pushing hard for Steve to help us out with this. If things either way, our current courthouse or new courthouse, it needs, and if we get district center, we need to keep getting good repair. At this siding, and this is to cut all the top building with a porch ceiling, vinyl side, cover porch beams inside.
Master Comer, we're going to ask you to call in and give that report. Can you call my phone, please? Go ahead. Okay, John. Mute your mic, please. My mic is good. Okay. Is that better? Yes, go ahead. Okay. We had an estimate from Smith Siding to cover all exterior wood around the top levels of the building with aluminum, cover the porch ceiling out of vinyl soffit, cover porch beams inside and outside with vinyl soffit and aluminum, install vinyl siding on front. Having trouble, I think that's gable. I get replace wood of rotted corners, which are forward. Repair and paint front columns. And then to paint the railing at the front entrance, scrape and paint 7 entrance doors and door surroundings, clean up, and trash, take away trash. That total estimate, and what that would do would get us in shape, so we'd have very little painting to do in years down the road. And all the high stuff would be covered. That estimate came in at $64,780. We had another estimate from Brown's Custom Exteriors, pretty much the same at $98,200. Then we had, I don't even think we need to give this one just to the judge. Or we had estimates just for painting, but that's something we're going to have to, I don't think we need to even consider because it's something that's going to have to be done every 8 to 10 years. It's just, correct. We'll submit this to AOC. See what they're willing to pay on this. Okay. We need a motion or anything for that, or just we're going to submit it and then you need to decide which one you want to submit. I would make a motion that we submit Smith Siding. It's the cheaper bid. That would be my recommendation. Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
Second, Master Couchins. Questions?
Joe, the only thing we talked about this in the committee meeting the other day. Was that including covering the columns with metal, or is that including taking the stucco out and reworking it and painting them? It seemed like we talked about trying to put metal around them, and we decided that it would leave wrinkles in them. Is that not what we talked about the other day, guys? Jeff, you and Judge, and team?
Okay, Master Dickerson, if you'll repeat that question that way, Master.
Okay, Carl, could you?
Yeah, when we talked the other day, wasn't that quote, didn't it include putting metal around the columns? And I think the judge, well, I won't speak for the judge, but I'm of the opinion that we'd be hard to get wrinkles out of those if we put a metal around the columns. Was that in the one bid, the low bid, was that the way they were going to fix them, or were they going to do the stucco like we talked about later on in the meeting?
My understanding that they could be covered with aluminum or without looking. And if I'm about it, it says replace wood in corners. So that, I don't know, it says repair. So I'm guessing that whatever needed done before would be my guess. If it's stucco.
We also sent a follow-up email just this morning on just option 1 and 2 on repairing the columns. Yes, Master Dickerson, you are right about the metal. We did discuss how we didn't think that would look very good with the wrinkles in it. So this follow-up email this morning on the option 1 and 2 was to address just the columns.
Can we send that to the AOC as well? And I
Sure.
don't know, we'd have to have Smith rebid it then, would we, Judge, or we just send this all to AOC and see what part of it they pay for?
I think we just submit it, and that way it gives them an idea of what it's costing to maintain this structure.
Okay. Well, I'd like, do we need to add that new email we got today from the construction to the motion as well?
Correct.
Okay, but I'd like to move that we add the email from Bots Construction. I'm just doing the columns.
Okay. We have an amendment. We have an amendment to add option 1 and 2 in the columns. Is there a second?
I second.
Second, Master Bots. Any other questions on adding this?
I guess my question is, this estimate from Smith's thing is not included in that paint, repair, and columns?
I think this is just specifically the columns.
And we go over that if you want to. The option 1 is loose material, 2 comes on the left. New premise and interior insulation finish system. Those 2 columns, 2 coats of 4 exterior coats, so they all match. Furnish lifts, equipment as needed. That estimate is $850. The option 2 columns, the new IFS, remove loose material on the left, premise, and finish exterior and finish system. 4 columns, varnish lifts, equipment is needed, painting included. This proposal, $20,000.
Correct.
No painting. Does that mean when whatever they do the painting, or they'll still paint it after?
Now that I can't answer. I didn't write this up, so I can't answer that. But we can get clarification before we submit this. But I can't answer that.
Yes, we get clarification. I think option 2 is the one we should submit, because it does say fix all columns, and it says no painting included with the proposal, so we'll still have to paint them. In option 1, the painting is included on all 4 columns, but they're just fixing 2 of the columns, and the other they're fixing all 4 of the columns. So if we're going to fix it, if we're going to submit it, let's submit it for all 4, and let's get it done right if we're going to do it.
Okay. So we're still on the amendment.
Go ahead, Judge. I'm sorry.
Any other questions on the amendment? Roll call vote.
Squire Sarton? Squire Houchins?
Yes.
Squire Botts?
Yes.
Squire Riddle?
Yes.
Squire Dickerson?
Yes.
Squire Coomer?
Yes.
Squire Baldwin?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Chairman, is that all you had under your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to emergency management, solid waste. Chairman Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. We did meet yesterday, and we had one item of business to discuss, and that was discuss county ordinance relating to animal control, in particular rabies control. And looking at our code book, and Jamie, you correct me if I'm wrong. Jamie, are you on? Anyway, and looking at our code book, for the county, this falls under animals, under chapter 90.02, and rabies controls is listed there, but the question has become about a quarantine period when an animal has been confirmed to have rabies and how to deal with that. In our research, we did find that there is a KRS statute related to that, and that's KRS 258.085, and it was our decision as a committee, which Kenneth and Carl also served with me on the Emergency Management Solid Waste Committee. It was our recommendation that we amend the 90.02 with an ordinance to include KRS 258.085, because it does, under that statute, it does deal with the quarantine period for rabies. Kenneth, Carl, is there anything else you guys would like to add, or is that pretty much what we decided?
That's what we decided.
Was.
Okay, so with that said, then we made a motion to do that, and so our animal control officer Shelley is going to be sending that to me, and then we'll have to send that on to our county attorney Catherine Thomas, and then there'll be a new ordinance number included under 90.02. So that was pretty much what we discussed. So, Judge, do I need to make a motion or anything today with this, or to wait till we have the ordinance ready to vote on?
I wait for the county attorney to have it prepared for the next meeting, and then we'll vote on it.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's it then.
Okay. We'll move on to old business. This is ordinance 660 relating to 2021 tax rates. I will open this public hearing. We'll close, and this will be adopted on second reading. I'll entertain a motion to adopt on second reading.
I make a motion.
Mr. Potts. Second by Mr. Coomer. Any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Vaughn,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
Yes.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you very much. In other old business, the Stallion Way discontinuance, Magistrate Coomer, you want to comment on this?
Yes. Can you hear me pretty well?
No, not really.
I'm taking my video. If anybody has any, this is something I'm figuring for. Owners have been very so it's something we get going. I guess what I want to move for the fiscal prove that I have to discontinue be public. It's communicating our intent. Be placed prominent places all the county road. I need to make that as a motion before my viewers. Okay, you want me to do it?
Yes, turn everything off and answer this.
Okay. Hang on just one second. Okay, can you hear me okay now? Yeah. We've been trying to get the Stallion Way closed for over a year now, and the property owner's been very patient. We've just now, we've got the descriptions of the land drawn out, and this is actually land that the state deeded back to the county from when the Veterans Loop was put in.
You actually take more land in than they need, and then they deed it back to the county. So I'd like to move at this time for the court to approve the notice of our intent to discontinue Stallion Way, and the signage communicating our intent be placed 3 places within 1 mile of the county road. In this same motion, is it okay if I go ahead and I know we need viewers. I need to appoint 2 viewers. I've got 2 that have agreed to do that. Do I need to make that a separate motion, or can we do all this in one motion?
No, just, you can do all this in one motion. We just need to make the court aware who those viewers are once you select them.
Well, I've already selected them. They are Don Steen and Randy London.
Okay.
And we'll meet there with county road supervisor, engineering, and examine the area. And then we'll have to report back in writing to at the next board meeting if there would be any convenience from discontinuing this. But that would be my motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, Master Riddle. Questions? Roll call vote.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay, just a second, guys.
Can't hear you.
Okay, next up, we're going to. I've had a young lady that's been trying to attend the court meeting for about 3 months now, and she represents Kids on the Block, and she wants to give a short presentation real quick. We're going to make the accommodation for her. This will be old/new business. So, Jamie, if you'll make those accommodations, that'd be great. Thank you. This is Amanda, folks.
Hello. So my name is Amanda, and I am the Director of Programs and a puppeteer with Kentucky Kids on the Block. For those of you who may not know what Kids on the Block is we are an educational puppet troupe. We're a nonprofit, and we go into schools and we teach programs on topics such as our biggest topic right now has been child abuse prevention. We have mental health program that we've been doing a lot. We've got 17 different topics, anything from safety topics like fire safety, water safety, to acceptance of differences. And with this past year, we switched to virtual programs to accommodate, schools not letting people in. But we also do a lot here in Barren County. So we just kind of wanted to share with you all what we are doing in Barren County. So first off, we have a kids run coming up. It's actually this Saturday. It's Workout Anytime presents Dash for Sheldon. And that kids run is at Kiriakis Park. And we do this kids run so that we can present programs in Barren County and Hart County free of charge to the schools, because we know a lot of schools don't have funding for extra programs. So we wanted to talk to you about our event, and it starts at 9 on Saturday, and we're looking for kids to join us. So if you all have any kids that want to run, it is for elementary age kids and preschool kids. We have a half K and a 2K, but the goal of the program of the event is to raise the money so that we can get into schools free of charge. Last year we were able to present 10 programs in Barren County, and this year so far we've been able to do 8 programs. And not only do we present to schools, but we also present our programs to community events, camps, Boys and Girls Clubs. We've been to adult daycares as well. So we're just trying to work to serve Barren County to the best of our ability. And we also have, a lot of you may know Kelly McKay with the radio station here. She is our county representative, and she has worked with us to help raise funds through our Kids Run. Our Kids Run is completely free of charge because we don't want a child to not be able to participate because they don't have the funding. So we try to keep it free of charge. Kids get a free finisher's medal. The top 5 boys and girls of each event get a trophy, and they get a shirt for the events. Now our plan in 2020 is to launch a Barren County committee. So we are looking for people to join that so that we can better raise money and maybe do some other events here in Barren County, and maybe get extra sponsors so that we can present even more of our programs to your local schools. The program that we're most passionate about is our child abuse prevention program. With that program, we do sometimes have children disclose to us that they've been abused, or after we've left, they may disclose to their guidance counselor or anyone at the school. So we feel the most passionate about that program. But we just wanted to kind of share what we've been doing so that if you all decide that you want to, partner with us to help bring more programs to Barren County, that you all could do so. But I appreciate you all. Do you all have any questions for us, for me? And I actually brought one of our puppets just in case you've never seen them. So let me get one of our puppets out so you can see what they look like. I almost forgot that I brought them. But this is, so our puppets are child size. I can't see my camera. Am I cut off? Did I cut her head off or anything? You're good. Okay. Yeah. So this is just one of our puppets. We have over 30 different characters, and we have duplicates of many of them. But we bring our puppets to life. We stand behind a screen, and or we don't stand behind a screen. We were all black with a black screen behind us. And with our programs, we have question and answer portions so that the kids, they may not feel comfortable asking a question about child abuse, or maybe they're struggling with some kind of mental health, something going on in their life, and they may not feel comfortable talking to a grown-up, but during question and answer, they're able to ask these puppets who they see as a peer, because all of our characters are between the ages of 10 and our oldest is 17. So they see the puppets as a peer. So they may feel more comfortable opening up and talking to the puppet where they may not feel comfortable talking to an adult. So that's why we choose puppetry. And we've been around since 1985. So any questions or anything for me? All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate you all letting me come and present what we're doing.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, court, as soon as Jamie gets everything set back up, what we're going to do, our AOC folks are needing to go to respond to an emergency somewhere. So in our new business, we're going to move K up to the first, and we're going to discuss that first. So K being approved the addendum to memorandum of understanding with the AOC, Barren County, and Barren County Public Properties Corporation for the capital construction project to construct the Barren County Judicial Center. So once we get our motion and our second, we will start discussion. We do have Danny Rhodes, Mark Bannister, Daniel Briscoe. And so if there's any questions for the AOC, once we get our motion and our second, we can begin discussion.
Can you also share that on the screen as we discuss that?
What do you want to do?
The memo of understanding.
The memorandum of understanding?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Or the addendum?
Well, we're discussing the addendum, so.
Okay. Does he have that?
I do not, sir. I do not have either one.
Okay, we're giving that to him, Master Bowman, to share.
Okay, thank you.
Take just a second. Yes. And Mark and Danny and Daniel, if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself and what you're representing, that way the court can pose the questions to you all as it relates to the...
I'm Mark Bannister. I'm a facilities coordinator, administrative office of the courts. I'm basically handling the Barren County Judicial Center project. Daniel is the bond counsel for the AOC, and he basically takes care of these type of issues with legal advice. And Danny had to step away. Actually, they had some issue somewhere, so he had to step away.
And this is Daniel Briscoe. Can y'all hear me okay?
Pretty fuzzy.
All right. I may try to call in because I was having a little bit of trouble, but I want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. So if it's all right, Judge, I'll call right back in so maybe I get a little better service.
Yeah, I couldn't make heads or tails of that. Okay, there you go, Magistrate Bowman. Here's I believe this is what you've asked for.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So once we get a motion in a second, we can begin discussion on this?
I make that motion.
Magistrate Riddle,
I'll second that.
second Magistrate Bowman. Okay. Court, we'll start with you. I know we have folks from the general public that want to make a comment that's on here today too, and we will get to that. But from the court members, what questions do you have as it relates to this addendum?
I'd like to know will the court not have any input into any of this if we do this addendum? Is that a right or wrong assessment?
Okay. You get one here. I couldn't hear what the question was.
Will the court have any input on the location or anything to do with the new judicial center if we do this memorandum of understanding, or if we do this addendum, the memorandum of understanding? And I'm saying as the public property committee or corporation member on the board, I'm speaking as to that.
So the question is if you all sign this memorandum of understanding, does that make AOC have a say in what happens as far as the location? Is that the question?
What I'm saying is, does the committee that was formed back a year ago or a year and a half ago, whenever it was, will they be doing the construction of this and do all the decisions that are being made? Will they be doing them all with you all?
Are you talking about the project development board?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, the project development board makes the decisions on the courthouse on the behalf of the fiscal court.
But
so what this addendum does is it basically includes the Public Properties Corporation into the agreement. And the reason why it's an addendum is usually when they initially sign the original MOU, a lot of counties don't have a Public Properties Corporation set up. So that's usually why it's not included at the beginning, because I believe the bond council basically checks with the local county treasurer or whatnot and find out if they have one and make sure that it's all set up properly. And then that's when they work on doing the addendum to bring that in.
Mark, I don't think the communities as a whole 100% is against building a new justice center. I just think, as us representing the people of this community, that it's our responsibility to use or hear their concerns and express them. And the way I look at this, if we do this addendum, then we're taking that completely out. The fiscal court has no input at all. Is that correct?
Hold on one second.
Are y'all able to hear me?
I just said to turn up my volume. Can you say, I'm sorry, I hate to ask you to say it one more time. I had to turn up my volume to be able to hear you.
All I'm saying is we represent the citizens of this community.
Yes.
And the way I see this, the way I've seen this, and I didn't read the initial memorandum I signed back a year and a half ago, and I said, I think when Mr. Rhodes was here, if I'd have read it, I never would have voted to do it. But my question is, if we represent the citizens of this area, then it seems to me that we're turning the whole project over to 6 people in the AOC. And I just have a problem with that. And not saying that I'm totally against the project. What I'm against is the fiscal court not having any input into the project. And if we sign this memorandum, we're giving you all the property committee, public property committee is giving you all our right to buy property wherever you would like and do whatever you would like. Is that not correct?
I mean, technically, basically what they do is, of course, it's in the administrative procedures that normally they try to rebuild downtown if it's a new location, or if it was chosen to remodel or add on to the existing courthouse or an existing courthouse, depending on what location, what county, and whatnot. those are decisions that are kind of made by the project development board. And as you well know, the project development board has got the county judge executive. He's on there to represent the county's interests. We have 3 members of the court system because basically they work in the court building. We have a person from the Bar Association to help represent the practicing attorney's interests, and a member from the community to represent the citizens' interest. They try to do that to balance the needs of the courts with the needs of the people in the county. Just going back to the location, and choosing where to do that. So they have to choose. I mean, some places. What issue do you have with the project development board being able to choose the location?
Well, you got the people that are going to be living in the house, building the house, and they're not paying for it. I guess is the problem I've got with it. You got the people that are going to. If I'm going to build a house and I've got unlimited money to build a house, and you're giving it to me, and I'll just go spend it however I want to, when I want to. Man, I'm going to make it super nice for me, and I don't know if the people of this community want to build it downtown. I don't know if I'd like to. There's other options, and none have been presented to this community. The only one I've seen is the one that the judge brought, building it on West Main Street. I don't know if there were any other options even discussed. None of us know. I guess the transparency issue is about as much to do with it as anything, Mark.
Okay.
As us representing the people, we do not know what's going on.
I mean, to my knowledge. Go ahead.
Can you hear me better? This is Daniel Briscoe, we're bond counsel for the project.
Yeah, you still have a bad connection.
And if you look back at the lease we had in 2017, my understanding is that the initial MOU, we were to pay $2 million of the bond issue, and there's probably outs. I'm not an attorney. I work in a sawmill, but I looked at the section 25 in the lease agreement we had, and it says that y'all will occupy the present courthouse on a biennial, I believe, anyway, on a year-to-year basis, 2 years at a time, and that you all will do that until the bonds are satisfied. Now, I'm sure there's some legal stuff in there saying you all don't have to do that, and I'm sure there is. But I read that and I thought, well, is AOC backing out there? If we don't build a new justice center, then y'all will stay in the other one until the bonds are satisfied. Is that correct? I don't know who's the legal person there. Is that right?
Well, what I know, I don't know everything, but what I do know is basically they've estimated that most of that bond payment, I believe, would be paid off by the time the courthouse is built and AOC would occupy that. So there could be some monies left depending on actually when the construction is finished.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen those. I thought there was a figure of $750,000. Does that strike anybody? I
believe that's contingent upon when the courthouse would be completed. And that was probably estimated based on completion date.
I think you're probably right. But anyway, I'm done talking. I've told you my concerns. Let some of the other guys say.
Questions?
I think to what Carl, what we were discussing, Carl was discussing there toward the end of his comments was we would take ownership of the existing building now upon a completion date of the new building. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, well, the county owns it now. I mean, that is a county-owned building. Basically, I believe if you look in KRS 26, it basically some of this stuff stems back to the mid-70s when I guess the General Assembly went back to a unified court system. Again, I'm not an expert on the history, but basically back then that's when they went to a unified court system. And it's basically there's language in the statute says the county shall provide a place to hold court. That's where a lot of this stuff stems from back in the 70s.
Okay.
So,
but right now, but Mark,
what happens?
right now with our, I'm sorry, but right now with our existing building, AOC is doing all the repairs, correct? They're paying for all the upkeep and repairs, and and then they are also making the payment, aren't they?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what basically happens is when the new courthouse is built, the AOC would occupy that. At that point, that's technically just the county's building. So the county would be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the building, the existing courthouse at that point. To my knowledge, yes.
Yeah, good morning, Tim. This is Ronnie Nadell calling. I have a question about our road out here at Coleswood. Please call me back when you get this message, please.
Any other questions on the agenda?
Can you hear me now?
I had a question, just a comment that he made. From your comments, is it a possibility that the state, the AOC, would pay for remodeling and additions to the old courthouse? Is that correct? If we decided to.
Yeah, okay. I would have to check and see how that was written when that was appropriated by the General Assembly. But usually, depending on what they think would happen, the language could be in how the money was appropriated for the courthouse, whether it could be in either or both. Whether sometimes what happens is the project development board, let's say they're not sure they can remodel the courthouse and add on to it. Let's say there's not enough room on the property. They can basically have an architect do an assessment and assess, is that basically it's a feasibility study to assess whether it's feasible to add on to what's there, or if it's more practical because of the size of what the requirements of the new courthouse would be, whether, hey, it doesn't make sense to add on here, we don't have enough room. So that point, that's when you would look for a new location. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Pretty much what you're saying, you can't answer that question right now, right?
You would have to have that assessed. Yeah, I don't know how on the new size of the square footage of the new courthouse, whether there's enough room if that's feasible. Basically, that's something that would have to be researched by your architect.
Thanks.
Can you hear me? This is Daniel Briscoe.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, you still can't hear me?
I can hear you, Daniel.
Well, Mr. Bowman's shaking his head, so I'm not sure everybody can.
I can.
I can hear you now.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, I apologize. I switched computers.
You're breaking up again.
If you call into
Anybody have any questions?
Got a quick question. The money appropriated, the decision has to be made by 2022. Is that correct? Or is it allocated regardless of when the decision's made to build or whatever?
Then I didn't catch the question there.
I said, is the money allocated for what year does this have to be done before the funds are no longer available?
There's not a limit.
There's not a, so we can decide. I mean, I go off court next year, so I might not even be part of the decision. It could be made in the next court as far as that goes. Is that correct?
It's probably, I mean, depending on how long, let's say hypothetically, depending on how long it takes, the project development board to find land. Of course, they have to get a price agreed to by whoever the property owner is. That takes some time. And then, of course, you have to design the courthouse, and then you have to go through construction. That could be 2, 3, 4 year process, depending on how long all that stuff takes. So what basically happens is once you get to the point where you've designed, after you've bought your land, you've designed your courthouse and you're ready to go out to bid. So what basically happens is at that point in time, they get the bids in, and then they basically sell the bonds to fund the courthouse. So at that point in time is when they actually sell the bonds to be able to fund the construction of the project. And all that's contingent upon how long it takes to purchase your land and get your building design. Does that make sense? So that's a variable time frame depending on how long all that stuff takes.
Mr. Barren, it seems to me if we had some options, it might be a lot easier for people to swallow, to be honest with you. If we had some options, we don't have to be given one option. That's the only one anybody's thinking. One option.
I didn't catch that first part there.
I said,
talking about how many land options?
Yeah, no, if we had more options, I mean, we don't have any options. We've had one option, and it may not suit. We'd like to see more options and make it see what the community really wants to do. That's all I'm saying.
I believe the architect is looking at other options in case the option with the park does not pan out. I believe they are looking at other options.
Okay,
as far as they're trying to get a pecking order of okay, what's good, better, and best.
Okay, so but I guess if we sign this agreement today as a public properties corporation, then we have no say anymore. The people, the committee makes a decision on where the Justice Center is going to be built. Is that right? And right now, the fiscal court has to approve, or the Public Property Commission has to approve that. Is that not correct, Mr. Briscoe or Bannister or whoever?
Well, they have to have the Public Properties Corp. Daniel, do you want to?
Yeah, can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I am so sorry, you all. I just called in on my cell phone. I think it might be helpful just really quickly. And I work for Densmore and Scholl. We're a law firm. I'm in Louisville, but we got locations all over. That AOC hires via RFP to sort of be like a third-party attorney that kind of we represent AOC, but we structure the deal and make sure that everything can be done tax exempt and okay under Kentucky law. And one thing that y'all keep saying that I just want to be clear is it's not like after today you guys are never going to hear anything about this ever again. Basically, the memorandum of agreement and understanding is more related to making sure that certain rules are being followed, because at the end of the day, the AOC is going to pay for everything. So it's more of if we're going to put up millions and millions of dollars to pay for this, we need to make sure that you guys are following certain state rules, that we're all going to follow the law, and so on and so forth. The actual committee and stuff that is put together to make those decisions, they kind of operate on their own. But at the end of the day, when it comes time to actually do the project and finance the project and build things, the county is still involved. And so, like, you know, I mean, I don't think you should do this, but the county could theoretically not sign anything. So it's like, it's not like if the PPC says we're going to do X, Y, Z, and the fiscal court totally is against that, unanimously, so that you guys are just like totally out on a limb. There's nothing you can do. The fiscal court still exerts the control over the PPC, and therefore, you know, the PPC is kind of like a instrumentality of the fiscal court. So, you know, as for how the actual decisions are made on the board that, you know, determines like where things are going to go, that there's like a lot of practical considerations and things that go into that you all have to work through. But just from like a 10,000 foot view, I don't want anyone to think that like after today the fiscal court's uninvolved in these projects, because they absolutely are not. And when it comes time to do the financing and whatever, even though AOC is the source of payment for these things, the county issues the bonds, which are repaid by AOC. And so you guys are still very much like in control. It's still your courthouse and so on. It's just that in exchange for paying for everything, the AOC has a lot of requirements, which is, you know, I'm sure anyone who deals with a state agency knows how that goes. Or anybody, anytime anybody's paying for anything.
Mr. Briscoe, with all due respect, I'm on fiscal court, and the first I saw about this was about a month ago, And I think this project's been going on for, what, a year and a half? So I'm on fiscal court, and the first drawings or anything I saw about this was a month ago. So I just question whether we'll be included that much in the future.
Well, I mean, I wasn't sure who was speaking, but usually, basically there's administrative procedures they're basically kind of govern how these projects are completed. So that's why they have the project development board. Who they have on the project development board is try to get a balance of the people that work in the court versus the county's represented, like I said, again, by the county judge executive, and we do have a member that's a citizen at large to help balance the issues of the interests of the community. So I can give you a couple of examples. I've been working on Oldham County Courthouse. The county and the project development board, it was important to the county to have they wanted to have the courthouse in the same location because they thought it was important to keep the courthouse downtown because it would help downtown business and all those businesses. So that was a strong, one of the key things that they worked on is to keep the courthouse in the same location. In Henry County, they had a beautiful older courthouse. It was built in the 1870s. They had the land on site to be able to add on and fit what was needed for the increase. So they added on to the courthouse. In other locations, either the space wasn't big enough or the county had decided, hey, we want to use that building for something else for our own use. And they had decided to put the new judicial center at another location in the county. So that's where, some of that stuff got discussed between probably the fiscal court members and the county judge executive and say, hey, here's what we think is in the best interest of, the local community or the interests of the county. Does that make sense? So I know the judges are probably wanting to try to keep it downtown for convenience of, for the people, but have y'all talked with Judge Hale about what you all thought would be best for Glasgow in the county?
No, we haven't, but that's a conversation we all ought to have. So we haven't.
Well, I'm pretty sure every member of this court has my cell phone number. And I know Sherry has sent out the PDB committee meetings as the notices, and they are open to the public unless we go into closed session. And that meeting time was set over a year ago. So, we welcome anyone that wants to come to that meeting, especially if you sit on fiscal court, to answer the question about the concept that I showed the fiscal court. That's the only concept come up with, and I showed it to you guys. We don't have any other concepts. Yes, we're looking at other sites, but there's no concept whatsoever. Keep in mind, we have put the MOU in place. Today, we're just talking about the addendum. I don't know if any other thing that I can tell you, but I do represent this fiscal court, and anytime you guys want to talk to me, you have my number. You've got questions, you want to go look at sites, hey, I'm available. Again, we only meet once a month.
I have a question. If we approve this addendum with the MOU today, does the PDB have authority to approve the bonds themselves, or does it have to come back to the fiscal court?
I'm not positive, but I would think basically, basically you have to be able to sell the bonds to be able to build the building. So to my knowledge, when you have the Public Properties Corporation, bonds get sold to the PPs through them. And then basically, I believe the courthouse is deeded to the PPC until the bonds are paid for, and then that basically switches to the county because there's no debt over the courthouse.
So pretty much what we're saying, that the court would have to approve the bonds. So that would be one way we would still have control.
I'd have to ask that question. I'm not positive, but I don't think I can give you a for certain answer on that.
Well, so this is Daniel, and yes, I mean, you guys will down the road read a resolution authorizing bonds, and then you also sign a lease, the county and the PPC, with the AOC. And so the way it was described is correct in the sense that you guys, I mean, one, you can always buy the building, right? If there's $40 million in bonds outstanding and you just want to pay them off and take ownership, you can. But obviously that's uncommon. And so typically AOC pays for the principal and interest. So if you borrow $40 million over 30 years, each month AOC cuts a check on your all's behalf and mails it, to the people who loaned you the money. But yes, I mean, there still is an approval aspect. You all still have to give your fiscal court the power to enter into the bond documents and authorize them and so on. So that is, and I under, these, so a lot of times, like bond counsel, my role, I wouldn't even normally be involved at this stage. We get involved like much later when things are closer to the actual financing. And so, I know it feels like maybe to some people like, oh, this has been going on for a little while, but from my perspective, it's still like a relatively, like, we're not even to a stage yet where we're talking about numbers and things like that. So it's still relatively early in the process.
Judge Hale, this is David Dickerson.
Yes, sir.
I asked you for the opportunity to speak to the court today, and I certainly appreciate your granting me that opportunity. Having been through this much earlier in life, it's done a little bit differently now, I grant, than it was in the past. However, the deed holder to the building in the center of the square at the present time is the Public Properties Corporation. They hold that deed, and the directors of that corporation are the members of the Barren County Fiscal Court. So we need to segregate the two, even though they do share similar governance. They're two different entities. The court's a subdivision of the state. The Public Properties Corporation is a public corporation that stands on its own. It makes its own decisions. The memorandum of understanding that you signed earlier with the approval of the court would then obligate, if this addendum is agreed to, would then obligate the Public Properties Corporation to immediately abide by the terms of that MOU. And a number of the members of the court have said, well, one of them I know said that today, that if he'd known what was in the original MOU, he'd have never voted for it. And that's fine. Everybody has their choice on things to do. So the PPC actually has a lot more influence over this project than maybe the information that's out there so far indicates that they do, since we already have a PPC established in Barren County. The reason they weren't part of it in the first place because nobody knew that ours was already effective, and it'd been effective since 1997 or 1998 when we did it in my court. So that's one thing. But I do have a couple of more things that are of interest to me. You said there'd only been one concept that had been presented to you or to anybody else, and that only concept that's been presented is evidently on the West Main Street location in conjunction with the city's park. Well, if that's the only thing that the PDB has and it's the only information they have to go on, then that by default is going to be where the PDB wants to do this, and by default is where it will be built, and by default is where the county has to sell the bonds for it, unless I'm wrong. If you only have one and you're going to do something, there's only one place to put it, then you're going to do one thing. You don't have any alternatives. So the question that I have for you, since that concept involves properties in addition to that one vacant lot, the Dollar General building and also the Glasgow Glass Shop building, not just for you, but for anybody that has this information. I'm not challenging you, Judge. I just want the information. Has any of that property been bought by any government agency that is in conversation with the PDB or the fiscal court or the members of the PDB as individuals or you as an individual to add property to that West Main Street location? Has there been an exchange of a deed, an exchange of money between either of the two landowners, the Glasgow Glass or the Dollar General Corporation? Has there been any exchange of money, deeds, or has there been a verbal or written commitment on anybody's part to buy either one of those properties?
There has been no money exchanged. There has been no written agreement. Verbally, we have been discussing about relocating the Dollar General on West Main Street, which Dollar General would like to do that because they want to be as much part of this project as anyone. But as of right now, no money has been exchanged, no written agreements, no handshakes that, yes, I will buy it if you move your property or your building or whatever. But there's nothing at this time.
And are you also telling us right now that the Glasgow Glass Company has not sold that piece of property, that they don't have an agreement to sell it to any individual or any member of the PDB or or the PDB as a group or the city of Glasgow or to Barren County Fiscal Court? Is the Glasgow Glass Company still owned by Glasgow Glass and the Ferguson family, lock, stock, and barrel with no agreement?
I was informed by the Glasgow Water Company manager that they own that building now, that the water company owns that building.
And when did they buy that, Judge? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know that.
But they bought it. So they bought it since these discussions started to take place at the PDB, which would have been in June and July. The two meetings the meeting that I attended in July, we had no property bought. There were still negotiations going on. But now the question I asked you was anybody. Now you're telling me that the Glasgow Water Company has possession of and ownership of the Glasgow Glass Company building. Is that correct?
That's correct. And when they
I have
no idea when they bought that.
Okay, so that has changed hands, and have they shared any information about what they'd like to do with that building, that property?
I have had discussions with Mr. Scott Young.
Mm-hmm.
Scott has said he would like to, if he could be a part of this project. He doesn't know how, but he would also like to construct some type of building there close by for his construction crews. But yes, Scott Young and I have had conversations about that building, but nothing verbal, other than no verbal promises to buy, no written agreement, nor have we exchanged any money.
So it's still available then to the PDB and to Barren County, even though it has changed hands. It's in a government entity's hands at this point in time, a government entity that is closely tied to the city of Glasgow, who is talking with Barren County Fiscal Court about doing this project jointly that includes a park. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement?
I guess you could make that statement. So I'm gonna put the brakes on you right now, and what I'm gonna say is Scott Young probably needs to be part of this conversation. This is not Q&A. This is your public comment. That's what we agreed for you to do, is to make public comment. Again, these meeting dates have been set. You have actually attended some of these meetings, and to me, that's where you need to get your information from. So
okay, then I just have one comment. It doesn't involve a question. It's just a straight up comment, because after the conversation this morning, I had to change what I intended to do because of some things that were being said and done in this meeting. So please forgive me for maybe going off the agenda, but questions and answers that give the fiscal court information I think are very appropriate. And so the only other thing that I guess you will allow me to say today, since you said you're going to put the brakes on anything else, is to urge all the members to vote no on this MOU addendum until further information is presented not only to them, but the general public. And my other comment is this. I think that, I just think a no vote's appropriate. I think they should wait to approve this MOU addendum, and it's at the discretion of the fiscal court, and I happily abide by their decision. I appreciate your time, Judge, and court members, I appreciate your time. So if we could, I'm happy to try to move forward, and I will stop at the present time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or discussion as it relates to the addendum of the memorandum of understanding?
Was there some questions from the public, Judge?
Well, Mr. Dickerson, he was the only one that that submitted that he would like to speak.
David Dickerson is going to talk.
I have a question, just to ensure my understanding. Yes, on this does not say that we any more controls for this new Master, could you
We lost you, Mr. Comer.
can you hear me?
Answer your phone, Tim.
My question is, a yes vote addendum does not mean that our court does not have any more say so on this judicial sentence, that we will still have some control.
You want me to get you a firm answer on that, Mr. Comer?
I'm sorry, let me turn this. Now I can hear you.
Wants to know about if this is a yes vote. Does the fiscal court does it totally strike them from having any type of control?
Judge Hale, was Judge Hale speaking?
Yes.
Can I just can I get you a firm answer on that?
When do you think you'd have that firm answer?
I'll probably have to ask. Maybe we could table this for another meeting. If that's what you all need to know in order to make the decision. Maybe I can get you another person that's knows more detail about what happens when that agreement is signed.
Okay.
So let me ask just last one question. What concerns does the fiscal court have with the courthouse? Is it the location, or what specifically do y'all have concerns with? That would probably help. That way I can ask those questions and bring up your all's concerns and maybe getting answers on your concerns back. Is it just the location or where?
I thought the location and probably the construction of the building, a lot of expensive glass. Maybe looking at maybe a different style building with the same results, maybe. And I haven't seen the building, just the pictures that you judge showed us, but it seems real fancy. And is that a necessary thing for a court to be, the whole court in a real fancy building? I know AOC's building is metal. Well, you might have nice offices, but does the exterior have to be all brick and all glass and all big columns like our district courthouse? Does it have to be that way? And that's a question I have. Economics, even though you got 32 million, you don't have to spend that much. Are you with me?
Okay, so you're right. I caught part of it. Some of it you're breaking up on. So you're basically worried about the cost of the construction.
The location. It seems to me if we're doing it for economic development, moving it off the square, leaving it on the square. I mean, your big draws for our economy on the square is your clerk's office, your sheriff's office for taxes. As far as drawing people in, since they're doing away with the driver's license now, you have to go to Bowling Green to get those, I think. It just seems to me that just having court is not going to be a big draw to the center of Glasgow, where if you get it outside of the center, it might just work out better economically for our community. We might be able to put something in that spot that might have a little more drive for the downtown economy than the courthouse, as well as a city park. Maybe a city park without the courthouse may have a more economic, be a better economic engine than a courthouse with a park. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. That's something, I mean, I can make a suggestion. I mean, I would suggest you all come to the Project Development Board meeting and discuss these issues with the Project Development Board members and maybe come to a consensus of what you all think is the best for the city of Glasgow.
And I intend to talk to the judge about this in the next little bit. I'm going to go to his office and talk about it. Probably not today, but real soon. For the next meeting.
Okay. I mean, that's, I mean, like I said, they talk through, on other projects, they talk through these issues, form a consensus, and then at that point, if you are looking for, let's say the building was downtown, and you wanted a historic look. So potentially, if it was a new building, they may have it look like a new building, but it's a historic looking building. Or if let's say it was in a larger city, they may choose some more modern design because it's downtown amongst a business district or something. So those are decisions that are kind of made depending on where you put the building. So let's say the building was out on the bypass out somewhere towards Lowe's. Let's just say hypothetically out there, you may choose a different look versus something was downtown. But you kind of figure out where you kind of want to have your building to be, and then start working on, okay, how do we need to make this thing look based upon where we have our building located.
And also, if you remember the MOU, you go back and read that, the PDB is formed by passing the MOU. Then you have to find the land. You don't even start on design until you find a spot.
Correct. Yeah. So one thing that happens too is we're basically going to go try to find a piece of property that's suitable for the courthouse. And once, let's say we make that decision, they'll basically work with our financial advisor, and they'll issue some what are called bond anticipation notes. And that's basically a certain amount of money that we're going to budget for to pay for the architect while he's designing the building. We'll pay for the construction manager for his fee while he's helping us estimate the building during design. We'll pay for surveying work. We'll pay for geotechnical work. We'll pay for land acquisition costs. So there's some money that's borrowed up there on the front end. It's not only all just basically borrowed at the very end, but when we sell the bonds for the whole project, we'll pay off those bond anticipation notes, to my knowledge.
So another quick question: who pays all these bills? If we start construction, we have to sell the bond before we start construction.
What happens is we have a bank. Basically, it's a bank trustee, and they pay the bill. So what happens is let's say we started construction. Construction manager, he's got his invoice from his subcontractors for the month, and he's got his fee. The architects got their fees and whatnot, whatever they're due. Basically, AOC checks all the invoices to make sure all that stuff's correct. We basically have the invoices approved by the project development board, and then they get sent to the bank trustee. The bank trustee then cuts the checks to the people who owe the money, whether it be the architect, the construction manager, some other type of service provider that's got a one-off invoice for something that we needed completed related to the project. AOC doesn't pay the bills. The county doesn't directly pay the bills. It doesn't come out of a, it's basically a checking account that's set up at a bank, and the bank physically cuts the checks for the project.
So if you run $1 million worth of bills, I know we paid a few already, but the county pays those, and then when the bonds are sold, they'll be reimbursed. Is that right?
Yeah. So so what we would probably reimburse those through the bond anticipation note. So whether they've had to pay for some advertising costs that's required to advertise for the architect and construction manager, once we get our bond anticipation note money, we can basically reimburse the county for those costs.
If we run up several $1 million worth of bills, it's going to be kind of hard for us not to pass the bond.
Oh yeah, yes. Usually we wouldn't have that unless the county chose to pay for some expenses up front to save interest costs on the project. That's the only instance where we would have that. On another project, the county has fronted some costs to save interest on the project.
I got you. Okay, thank you. Sorry I asked so many questions.
It's okay. That's what we're here for, to talk about the project.
This is Mark Bowman. I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding everything correctly. At the end of the day, if we decide to do this project, okay, and build this courthouse, $32 million, AOC, in essence, is going to pay for that building. Is that correct?
Yes. What they do is they basically pay the bond payments until it's paid for.
All right, that's number one. And then number two, the AOC will maintain that building and be responsible for all that.
Yes.
Okay.
No, why is that not the case?
County's legally responsible to maintain, but we reimburse for the expense.
Okay, so I had my coworker here. So basically what happens is the county maintains the building, but the AOC reimburses for the expenses. So if you want to go into that a little bit on what normally happens with that. So let's say something happened, building gets built, and let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, you have a problem with the boiler, and let's say they need to let's say this control board goes out on the boiler. The county would basically get some quotes for that stuff, and then if it's under $2,500, I believe the county goes ahead and fixes that expense. If it's over $2,500, then the county will usually get quotes, send that up to AOC. That gets approved. County has the work completed, and once that's done and county's paid the bill, I believe they send the canceled check into AOC, and AOC cuts them a check for reimbursement for that maintenance expense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And there's also some stuff that beyond what I take care of. The county, the AOC pays for these utility costs. I believe what happens is they kind of form a budget, and I believe they pay that every quarter. And so, to my knowledge, they pay the quarterly estimated expenses in advance at the beginning of the quarter. And then the county uses that money to pay utility bills and janitorial and these different things that are paid for in order to operate the courthouse.
Okay, and then the way that the building is paid for by the AOC is there will be, let's just use the $32 million number. On the $32 million number, then there will be bonds that would have to be sold, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then there's going to be a amount of time that those bonds will be extended over. 30. What is the length of
20 years, to my knowledge.
20 years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And the court will have to approve the selling of those bonds before we can go any further at that point, correct?
I'd have to ask that question. I'm not sure exactly how that works down to the detail level.
Mr. Briscoe.
But once we get to that point, I mean, the project there's no turning around at that point, correct?
Well, I mean, you know, we're going to be borrowing some significant money at the beginning to pay for these consultants. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of hard to pull the reins back at the end of the job when, you know, it's kind of like building a whole house but not putting the roof on it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, realistically, I mean, it's a commitment. I mean, you know, it's basically a commitment by the county that, hey, you know, we're behind the project. You know, a lot of this is I've worked for state government for a while, but I worked in the executive branch, but I basically worked for AOC for about 2 years. And one thing that I didn't realize that I've come to now that I've worked for AOC is you know, the reason why a lot of these courthouses are being rebuilt. And I'll give you for example, in Oldham County, when I started to say, hey, we're going to go over top of Oldham County. So one thing you got to think of is that courthouse was built in the 1870s. Okay, when Oldham County had that courthouse built, there was 8,000 people in the county. There's got to be at least 100,000 people in that county. I mean, the population is 10 times the size of when it was. So they've done a small addition on that courthouse, but a lot of these places where the populations have increased, you know, the population has outgrown the size of the courthouse as far as being able to take care of the court system. So, you know, in Morgantown, we're working on one there. They only have one courtroom in the courthouse. You know, we put in a circuit courtroom, a district courtroom. We put in a family courtroom. You know, you're adding services, and also some counties they have drug court stuff, so they got to make provisions for that if we need to. So just keep in mind, you know, when this stuff was built years ago, it's different today on all the things that have to take place in the courts. So that's the reason why a lot of these things that's the reason why you do see bigger courthouses. There's more functions going on in there.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I know for myself personally, you know, this is a large project.
Yes, sir, it is.
And you know, I mean, it does cause us all to stop and think.
Yeah, and they also too, they do try to plan for, you know, future expansions. They do, to my knowledge, they look at the caseloads, and if they've seen increases over a period of time or whatnot, they try to figure out, you know, do we need to add expansion and you know, additional space? And so I believe in Oldham County, you know, they add an additional courtroom for future anticipated use due to the growth in the county, which Oldham County is right next to, you know, Louisville and Jefferson County. So everything's heading east because everybody's landlocked by the river. So, you know, that's something they plan for in the future, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and go, guess what? Hey, we could have used that space.
And just to be clear, at the end of the day, if everything worked correctly with this project, what would the cost be to the county?
I mean, zero. I mean, I don't know of any cost. I mean, basically what happens is maybe let me elaborate on this some more. So throughout the process of designing the courthouse, so there's three parts, really three basic parts to design. When the architects get started on the project, they do what they call phase A design. Okay. That's after we've selected our site and whatnot. They basically do the general concept. They basically lay out the footprint of the courthouse, you know, how many courtrooms, how many offices, how many bathrooms, you know, the jail cells, the elevator locations. They work out how all that's going to work in conjunction with each other at that point. At that time, once they get a basically design completed, at the end of that, usually the construction manager, which we're going to be using on this project, they basically kind of give you a initial estimated cost. That's their phase A estimate. Once that is completed, the architect will further define the courthouse and get into more detail through what's called phase B. That's when they get the courthouse further defined. They'll make fine adjustments. We'll do another estimate on it. And then once that other estimate is completed, then they'll enter in what's called phase C. Phase C is where we pretty much decided on what the building's going to look like, the size of the building. and then they'll basically, the architect, the engineers and whatnot, they'll basically physically draw stick to stick the HVAC, you know, what kind of drywall, what the outside of the building is going to be, you know, whether this is precast stone piece that's on the windowsill or if it's a real stone piece. They'll get down to the detail of what they need in order to be able to building and bid it out in order to get the bids to construct the project. So it takes probably a good year to go through all that process of designing all that stuff to be able to get it out to bid. That's as long as you know, don't run into any roadblocks along the way. And in the same time, once we get through all these different phases, we'll usually have our financial advisor do a estimate based on what the current bond rates are and whatnot to make sure we stay what's called a use allowance, and that's your annual bond payment. So if we stay in the annual use allowance, we're basically in budget. We'll proceed into the next phase. If we're way over budget or something, we may have to cut the scope. We may have to, you know, value engineer the building, finishes and whatnot. So that's kind of like a continuous process throughout the design to be able to budget for the building. So when we go out to bid, we can come in on budget and we'll have money to accept the bids and start construction. Otherwise, if we're over budget, we'd have to go back in, design stuff to value engineer the building, and then rebid again, which could be, you know, 4 or 5, 6 month delay. So you want to be in good shape when you go out to bid. So we do estimates throughout the design to be able to do that.
I think you answered my what was going to be my next question. You know, I think it's been approved at 32 million. What happens if it goes above that? But with this financial advisor and your tracking that you don't go over your annual use allowance or your bond payment for a year, that would have some sense of security that we would not go over the 32 million.
The 32 million is basically an estimated cost number. So basically they estimate this use allowance based on an estimated bond interest rate. I'm not exactly sure what that is. So I can give you, for instance, I know on Henry County, they were on budget. And so they had to basically, construction manager had decided to reduce the amount of contingency they had to build the project. So usually, let's say usually you want to have about 10% contingency, maybe a little less. I know the construction manager had decided to reduce their contingency, but what happened is when they sold the bonds, because the rates are real low right now, that we end up having more money for principal because less had to go to interest. So that allowed us to increase our contingency for the project to take care of unforeseen issues or, you know, add stuff to the project. So that's a variable there that allows you to maybe be able to spend more money on the courthouse depending on how you set your bonds. Does that make sense? So like right now where everything's been high, everybody knows the price of lumber's been high and whatnot. So where you have some of these volatilities, let's say steel cost is up 30% or 40%, in order to be able to pay for those additional costs due to the material increases, if the rates stay low and we get favorable sale of our bonds, that allows us to be able to pay for some of these material increases and whatnot that could bring over the $32 million or whatever the estimated cost was. So there's some factors there that gives you some room to be flexible in order to get the project built due to, you know, what type of issues are going on with the economy and whatnot. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, anytime you're dealing with a large project, there could be a 10% overrun, or hopefully there could be an underrun if it's managed well.
That's possible. Well, if let's say right now, let's say everything's high. Let's say the economy slowed down. We had a recession. You know, let's say commercial construction slowed down. Then it would be to the county's advantage, because technically we should be seeing better prices. So that could have your project come in better or at a less cost or whatnot. Or let's say there's something I'll give you an example. In Henry County, that courthouse had a lot of mature trees across the front. Some of those weren't in the greatest shape, and they ended up deciding to take several of those out. But they paid some additional monies for some decent sized trees to go back in for time down the road, so the courthouse would look good out front again, because that was something that the project development board wanted to do, as far as an aesthetic look for down the road, in the town square and whatnot. So that's where, if you had a good contingency, if there's something that would be a benefit to the project that they didn't have the money to do, so it was included, that they could add on, at the end of the project or some point in the project, that's where, if your bond sale comes in good, you might be able to do some of these features. I can give you another example. They, like I said, in Henry County, they were tight on the budget, so they left off a new judge's bench in one of the courtrooms. Of course, you had basically a brand new room and whatnot, and it because the bonds were so favorably, we're able to add a new judge's bench versus the 80s. That was just another example of what happens financially. What could happen in the project.
And I just want to add, this is Daniel. Since we were talking about like cost to the county, one thing that is important to note, and I don't know if it's been brought up yet or not, but if not, I'll just make sure that it's clear, is that this doesn't affect the county's borrowing capacity. And you won't like get dinged on your statement of indebtedness. If you guys go do a general obligation deal a year from now and you've got these bonds outstanding, it'll be as if they don't exist, because they're supported by a separate source of revenue unrelated to the county's finances, that being AOC. So from a technical standpoint, it's not like you have to worry about this is going to squeeze out your ability to borrow in other ways, or if you do a project in that same year. If any of you all are familiar with what's called bank qualification, sometimes we can figure out a way to get you a better deal based on that. There's usual effects when a county borrows on your all's debt capacity that aren't going to be an issue here, because somebody else is paying for it, which is just like another helpful piece of flexibility. Maybe put your mind at ease a little bit.
Mark, I've got one more question, and I always say one more, but this is an important one. If you've been on with our whole meeting when we talked earlier about the AOC and the existing courthouse, Mark, Mr. Bannister.
Were you asking Mr. Briscoe that question?
No, I'm asking you, Mr. Bannister. Were you on when we were talking about painting the existing courthouse and doing the columns and things like that?
No, sir, I wasn't. Basically, I wasn't on the call until Danny had to go take care of this emergency issue, and then he asked me to step in. I mean, I know that they're pricing some repainting the existing courthouse, but I don't know where that's at and what's discussed. I believe the county was getting some pricing for that.
Do you have anything to do with that decision, whether the AOC pays that or not?
No, sir.
Well,
I mean, to my knowledge, they are. I mean, I think they've just asked Judge Hale to get the pricing together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just if you are part of the decision, send the money down here.
Can you say that last part again?
Hey, send the money down here if you're part of the decision makers.
Send the money down there. Yeah. Well, that goes back to where I was talking about fur on maintenance. Basically, if it's, I know it could be a substantial amount of money. That's probably aerial lift and all whatnot. But I believe they just get the stuff, all the pricing together. Judge Hale would send that stuff information up, and then we would get that. They would get that approved and give them basically a notice to proceed. And once again, they get the work completed, the county pays the vendor, they send us to cancel a check, and then AOC basically just reimburses.
That'd be great.
That's just the basic understanding of how that works. If it's some type of large scale project, let's say it's a $150,000 project or doing something, they'll do a memorandum of understanding with the county to do a project. Let's say architect had to be involved for whatever reason. I'm doing several of those. We're doing a lot of HVAC replacement work in Estill County right now, where we're basically doing most of all the HVACs being replaced, and that's being completed through a memorandum of understanding where we reimburse.
Okay, is there any other questions as it relates to the addendum? We do have a motion and a second. We have a motion, Master Riddle. We have a second, Master Bowman. So any other questions as it relates to the addendum? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson, Squire Dickerson,
No.
Squire Coomer,
Oh,
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sarton,
No.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts, Squire Botts,
No.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Okay, we have a tie vote. So what we will do, Mark, if you will get these questions answered, I think the way I understand this, the original MOU is still in place. So,
Okay, so basically, you all want to know about if you sign the MOU, if y'all don't have any say in the courthouse at that point. Is that correct?
I believe that was one of the questions from Magistrate Coomer.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion about cosmetic on the current building.
In the location, correct?
And then the location.
Okay. I mean, you know, not to drop back and punt here, but to my knowledge, the original MOU basically, gives the project development board the ability to make those decisions on the county's behalf. Just so you know, I can double check that.
Well, it does.
But
I
yeah,
think that's exactly the way I read it. I did read it, and I think that's exactly the way I read it. And I think, I'm not trying to be bullish here, but a lot of these questions should have been asked before we passed the MOU, and we did pass it, and we are where we are. So, I think the big question here is, do we want to move forward with this judicial center, or do we not want to move forward with it? And we can muddy the water forever and ever about the details of the doorknobs that goes in this building, but are we going to move forward with it, or are we not? I think that's the bottom line. Somebody, if you don't want to move forward with it, then we need to just get it out there and say, hey, no, I'm not for it. But there's going to be a lot of questions come up in a project of this size, and I think we're going to have the ability to make some of the calls as far as the color of the glass and this and that. But the real question is here, are we going to move forward with this, or are we not? And, I think we need to move forward. And I think, the questions that are on the table need to be, I think this is in the scope of things. Over a long-term period of time, this is going to be a good thing. There is some questions that has to be answered. There's some things, some procedures that have to be followed. But in the scope of things, this is going to be a good thing for the city of Glasgow and for the county of Barren.
And I'm gonna echo a little bit there what Master Riddle says. I mean, I think this is, you have to take in consideration that Representative Riley and Senator Gibbons, they fought hard in legislation to get this money put in for our county. And who's to say they want to help us do anything else if you go back on them? So anytime we can bring a project of this magnitude to our community, I think we should take advantage of it. And as far as the court members, listen, you guys can be as involved as you want to be. You can be as involved as you want to be. So I have the spot on the board because I'm the judge executive, and that's the way the legislative assembly voted to put it that way. So I knew that going into it. Like I say, it wasn't something that I asked for to represent the court. But that's the General Assembly voted that way. That's their legislation. So again, I invite any of you to be as much a part of this as you want to be. So never stand on the sidelines and wave your hand and say, "Well, wait a minute, I don't know." You've got to get in the game. This is as much as your game as anybody's. So, hey, we'll see where we go from here.
So can I ask one question? Let me ask this question. What do y'all think are the downsides by having the new courthouse? Are y'all seeing any downsides, or is it just an issue of we're not sure we want to make sure we're happy with where the location is? Is there any other issues and major issues in that, or do y'all have any thoughts on that? I mean, I can work that on my end too if y'all have other concerns or issues or potential problems with something down the road.
Mark, I think a lot of them has been answered. I believe your boss that was on our last PDB meeting, was it going to affect our bonding capacity for the county? And that answer was no. And Mr. Briscoe just followed that up because that was a rumor that was circulating in our community. And then, who was making the payments and how is it going to be paid? And obviously the legislation, they voted not to exceed $3.1 million annually on this payment for 20 years. I think that's been corrected. And then again, as far as the location, we're in conversations with 2 or 3 other folks around the square, but they're just conversations. So, I really don't know other than just the court wants to have the control. And, again, the court can be involved every member can be involved as much as they want to.
I have another question, if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
One of my concerns, too, having some control is if we okay this, does it mean that we are going to enter into a local agreement with the city? That's if we approve this, is that a done thing? That's one of my concerns also.
No, that's not a done deal.
No.
That's not a done deal at all. That was just a concept. That's just a concept. The conversations was with the state AOC folks that we have a project that the city wants to do. Can we combine our state project to benefit the city project in some way? And the AOC said yes, because they do this in other communities. And so there's no agreements with the city of Glasgow. It's just a conversation. Hey, how do you think this would look? But there's nothing has been signed. The county attorney on our side would have to sign something in that agreement or prepare something. But other than that, there's no agreements with the city of Glasgow. All there is a concept and a conversation.
That's the reason I had the question about having any more say-so, because if we didn't approve the interlocal agreement, the whole location, the setting of the building, everything is going to change. And so that was my concern of not having any more input. How much further can we go until we decide that?
If we had
on deciding the location.
Yes.
I mean, Judge Kell, maybe you can speak to this. I mean, the city might not be interested. If the city's not interested in that, then we would have to look elsewhere. Or if the county's not favorable to that, we might have to look elsewhere. That's just, you're kind of going through the process and the steps. Okay, here's what we think we might want. Maybe maybe it's not feasible. So then you got to kind of drop back and punt. What's my next best option? So,
let me make sure I'm clear here.
Okay.
With the memorandum of understanding and the PDB board already in place, have we not made the decision as a court to build this courthouse?
Pretty much.
We have, that's correct.
But you got to be able to borrow the money. You got to be able to borrow the money and sell the bonds to build a building.
Exactly.
No.
If that's the case, what do we need this other document for? If we've already made the decision to build it, what do we need the other document? And the other question I have, if we approve this today, and you wanted to go ahead and make a deal with the city, would the magistrates make the deal, or would the group at the courthouse make the deal? The way I understand it, the group at the courthouse would make the deal. If they wanted to make a deal with the city, they could make it with us having no input into it. Now, y'all tell me if I'm wrong about that.
Well, I'm going to answer.
The way it's gone so far, it seems like that's the way it is.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that, Magistrate Dickerson. When it comes to an agreement with the city of Glasgow, the Barren County Fiscal Court is going to be front and center on that. So I haven't read anything in there that the PDB is responsible for making any type of agreement with the city of Glasgow on behalf of the county of Barren.
So Judge Hale, I guess the question I'll put to you, if we had approved this today and the group, what is the committee that you chair, the
Project Development Board?
Yeah, Project Development Board, yeah. If y'all made the decision to go ahead and buy the land that y'all wanted to, the court has already approved that. Is that right? If we'd approved this today, which we didn't, is that right? If you want to go buy land, if we'd approved this, if you wanted to go buy land tomorrow to build this Justice Center on, then your group would go ahead and buy it. Is that right? Or is it wrong?
If we found the suitable piece of property, but we would have to vote on that as a PDB committee.
That's right. The committee, not the fiscal court, the committee. That's right.
Yes, that's correct.
You answered my question. Thank you.
So I guess in a sense the court has agreed to build a building. And these steps, I think the question was asked, so why do we need an addendum? Well, this addendum is because legislation said we have to have it. These are the steps that legislation has passed for us. These are the steps we have to take. And Mark, am I correct in saying that?
I mean, basically you have to have, I can let Daniel explain the purpose of the Public Properties Corporation. But that's just a step in the process. Like I said before, is when they, I believe it's required. I'm almost positive they basically have to have the county on board before the General Assembly will appropriate the money. So what happens is they get the memorandum of understanding in place. Let's say before the legislators go into session. Usually it's during a budget year. And then at that point in time, if it's one that's going to be approved, they get all that in place so that they don't appropriate the money to a county who's not interested in doing the project. Okay, so like I said, when those memorandums are in place, let's say maybe the timing is not there to be able to include the Public Properties Corporation. So that's why they do the addendum, so that way they can work on getting the Public Property Corporation stuff in order prior to having the addendum put in place to bring it to the project, because that's how all the bonding and stuff works too.
So let me jump in. This is Daniel. The addition of the Public Projects Corporation kind of unnecessarily complicates things. And if we were going back in time, we just wouldn't have that. But it was initially set up like 30, 40 years ago, because by having it, in addition to having this like local authority where you've got a board and local practitioners and the judges and whatever that get input on things, the real reason was to shield the county from the debt. And so part of the reason why it doesn't count against like the Barren County debt limitation is because you have this kind of shadow corporation involved, the same way that like a regular company might have different LLCs or whatever. And so the two things I would say is, like, a couple of people have made the point today, like from a practical standpoint, the county is more or less committed to the project via signing the original MOU. If you guys want to, there is an off ramp with this where you don't approve the financing. But to everyone else's point, like, you know, there's a host of other issues that come with pulling out of something like that at the last minute. But I just was pointing that out to make sure that people understood that it's not like you sign this thing today and then 100% there's going to be a bond deal and a building and so on. But the two things that I would add are, from my standpoint, and again, I don't really represent Barren County in this situation, but I would say it's in your all's protection to have the PPC as part of the MOU, because otherwise it's just squarely on the county. You don't have this other entity on the hook at all. And then secondly, before we can do any financing, they're going to have to join the MOU, the PPC. So like at some point, in order for AOC to be able to pay for these things that the General Assembly has appropriated, the PPC's got to be involved as well. And so whether we do that today or not, you know, I guess it's left to be determined. But the one thing I just wanted to add is that the PPC was initially added and still serves the purpose of protecting the county, in the sense that, like, you all don't want this to be your debt. You want it to be considered, at least by the bank, AOC's debt, if that makes any sense.
Yes, sir. That clears a lot up. So basically, by not passing this addendum, we've put all the burden, the $32 million burden, on the county, not the AOC.
Well, okay, not necessarily, right? Because like you could still not do the deal or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like that's kind of basically correct. Yes, it would be like if you were gonna lend money to somebody, but you found out that someone else was going to be paying for it or whatever. You would want to make sure that you're adding them to the documents just to make sure everything is square. Because to your point, we still are going to have to enter a lease. And if the county just entered that lease without the PPC being involved, then yes, I would agree this would 100% be on the county. And I think everybody can agree that that's not what we want, neither the county nor AOC or anything.
Joe, just as a meeting of the PPC, is that correct, what we're having now?
You say that again?
This is a meeting of the PPC, is that correct? We're having a meeting of the PPC right now, is that correct?
No, we're in fiscal court right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the PPC voted not to participate in the addendum, is that not correct?
No, the fiscal court approved not to participate.
Who is the PPC?
The fiscal court is the PPC. It's two different bodies.
PPC is a separate corporation from fiscal court, is it not?
But it's still the same member. It's a different corporation.
Okay, but it's a different meeting, is that not right? I'm just asking about it. I mean, we've had a question, we called the question, it's been voted on. I'd like to move it. I'd like to say we move on.
Mr. Dickerson, I have Danny Rhodes, who's Executive Officer of Court Facilities. He just got back on the call. You want to talk to Danny about the decision making if you all sign this memorandum of understanding, addendum? Your questions, we might be able to elaborate on this some more right now.
PPC is a different committee, and I moved that we adjourn the PPC committee and go back to fiscal court. We voted as PPC committee. All I need is a second. We'll be adjourned from the PPC.
No,
somebody tell me wrong.
No, sir. No, sir. We're still in fiscal court. We haven't started the PPC committee meeting. That's after.
Oh my God.
The PPC is the one that just voted, is it not, Judge? Okay, y'all continue.
It's kind of like reading that MOU and understanding. There's two different bodies here. You got the fiscal court and you got the private properties. The members of the fiscal court make up but it's two different meetings. So you have to call a meeting after, and I think we put that in there. The PPC meeting will follow directly after the fiscal court meeting. The private public properties will be directly after the fiscal court meeting.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah. So again, we're still in fiscal court, but the fiscal court has said we're not going to proceed with the addendum of the MOU.
Okay, okay. I got you.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
when they get back, we're going to have a special call to answer these questions, or we're going to do that in next month's meeting.
Can I say something real quick? This is Mark Bannister. I have Danny Rhodes here. He's the executive officer for court facilities for AOC. If he might be able to give you all clear direction on some of these questions.
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can for you.
Danny, basically one question they have, their concern is basically if they sign this addendum, they're afraid they have no say so whatsoever down the road as far as anything has to do with the courthouse, whether the project development board decides to, put it at whatever location and whatnot, they have no input on what the courthouse is going to look like, those type of things. That's
so by virtue of signing the original MOU, the fiscal court has given that direction to the project development board. Decisions related to the project. The issue with bringing the Public Properties Corporation in as a party to this is the Public Property Corporation will be the vessel that initiates the bonding of this project. Generally, and this is what we've done on every other project that we have. In some cases, the Public Properties Corporation isn't established yet in many counties, so that's why we wait and issue that as an addendum. So
Danny, we could actually move into our private public properties meeting and approve this addendum there.
As the Public Properties Corporation, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So even though the fiscal court we've had a 4-4 tie, it didn't pass for the court. We could actually move on to the private public properties meeting and pass it there.
That would be what I think.
Correct.
I mean, like from a legal standpoint, it seems like you guys were, that the fiscal court, since it's technically the PPC that would be adding on to it, like that would be the vote that is controlling in that case. But it's also sort of whatever you want to do, I'm sure.
Okay, so we will move on. We'll finish our agenda, and then immediately following, we will move to our private public corporation, and then we'll talk about this addendum again. So we'll move on pretty swiftly with this other. Okay, if you go back to A, approve the payments and claims as presented.
Motion.
Riddle.
Second.
Mr. Coomer, questions?
Yes, I do have questions on this. I'll be real quick. I don't know if it's something with the length of this meeting, I'm sure we can't cover it today, but just wanted to point out under our claims, if you look on page 22, we have an invoice submitted to us. It was 2019. And then there's some other old ones in there too. I've had some discussions with Sherry on this, and then she's also sent, and it's concerning the statute of limitations. If you look at the KRS statute, it says 30 days from receipt of claim. But 2019 and 2020 bills, and this, year or 2 years later, we can't be, from an entity standpoint, I don't see how we could be paying bills a year and 2 years 1 year and 2 years old. But anyway, Sherry has sent something to the auditors, and then also Catherine is supposed to be involved in this research too. So, and the question was asked, one of our masters, and that's me, wants to know if there's a statute of limitations on bills. We receive statements that are 1 to 2 years old, mainly from medical providers. I know the KRS states that payments should be made within 30 days of receipt. And then the question was asked, what if bills are not received until 1 to 2 years later? So, and this is not the first time it's happened. If you look under the, the payment of claims, we're getting a lot of bills admitted to us that, that are old. From an accounting standpoint and from a business standpoint, we should not be receiving bills and paying bills that are 1 year and 2 year old. That's my thoughts.
Any action on those old bills, Master Bone?
Well, I guess until we won't be able to do anything, or until we get some direction from the auditor and what they advise.
Okay. Do you want to track these bills until we get clarification?
I think it would be good. I mean, a 2019 bill, my goodness.
So if you do an amendment to this, be specific about which bills they are that you want to exclude.
Well, the first one is on page 22. It was a medical bill. The amount, I mean, it's not much, but still, 2 years old. What do you need to pull it out, Judge? Just that? Or a certain number?
The invoice number and the vendor.
The invoice number. Oh, would that be the account number?
Yeah, that'd be the account number.
Oh, okay. That's 03-5101-3430. And the vendor was Ready and Lessenberg.
Okay. How much?
$42.10.
Next.
All right, and I think there's a 2021 in here too. Sherry, do you remember where it was? I was trying to scroll down and find it real quick.
The judge has the claim list.
Okay.
Yeah. If you go to page 19, Mark.
Okay. Let me back up here then. It's taking a second. Sorry. Oh yeah, there's some more 2019 bills there. A whole host of them. Ambulance Service Corporation, and it's 05-5103-3430. There's a total. Can I just give you the total? Because it's all nice and neat there. It's all the it'd be $990. And these invoice dates are anywhere from February the 10th, 2019 through August the 26th, 2020.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that'll be sufficient. Thank you.
Okay, so we have is that your motion?
Yes.
So we have a motion.
I second.
Master Bott, second. Any questions on? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Square Dickerson. Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Thornton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. All right, now we have the main motion. There's not any more amendments. Okay, roll call vote on the main motion.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Thornton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. Approve the transfer of funds.
Motion.
Master Riddle,
Second.
Master Couchins, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Thornton,
Yes.
Yes.
Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Approve budget adjustment.
Motion.
Motion.
Watts, second by Coomer. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Squire Thornton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Yes. Approve monthly financial statement July 2021, subject to audit.
So moved.
Second.
Master Houchins, second by Master Botts. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Thornton, Squire Sarton,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. Approve amended financial statements for June 2021, subject to audit.
Make that motion.
Second.
Houchins, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sarton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes, thank you. Approve official settlement July 2021, subject to audit, the county attorney, county clerk, and the
Motion.
Second.
Riddle, second by Master Bowman. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Sarton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Personnel actions.
So moved.
Houchins.
Second.
Second.
Bowman. Questions?
Just a comment, it looked like on some of the personnel actions, it was just a matter of bringing those employees up to our new starting rate of $15.
Correct.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Yes. Let's see. Establish the 2022 motor vehicle and watercraft property tax rate.
So moved.
Second.
Master Bowman, second Master Houchins. Questions? Roll call vote.
Squire Coomer,
Yes.
Squire Bowman,
Yes.
Squire Sarton,
Yes.
Squire Houchins,
Yes.
Squire Botts,
Yes.
Squire Riddle,
Yes.
Squire Dickerson,
Yes.
Judge Hale.
Yes. The Extension District, obviously Chris Shaw has been on here, has been waiting. You all have that in your packet. That tax will stay the same. It's not going up. We'll need to acknowledge that.
So moved.
Owen. Second measure. Maybe. Mr. Coomer, did you second that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Watts,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
Yes.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Yes. Next is the Ambulance Service Taxing District. I think we have Miss Ann Christie who's on here. Any questions for her? But that you all should receive that packet in the mail on that tax.
Motion?
Ms. Riddle.
Second.
Mr. Botts, questions?
The rates stayed the same, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Watts,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
Yes.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Ms. Ann Christie, for being on there. Next will be the library. We have Amy Sandell, who's been waiting also, so we need to acknowledge that as well.
Motion to approve?
Ms. Riddle, second by Mr. Houchins. Questions? Roll call vote.
Mark Houchins,
Yes.
Mark Watts,
Yes.
Mark Riddle,
Yes.
Mark Dickerson,
Yes.
Mark Coomer,
Yes.
Mark Bowman,
Yes.
Mark Thornton,
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sandell. The appointment for the Barren County Cemetery Board, I'm going to pass on that at this time. But I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and then we will stay on here for our public properties.
Second motion.
Mr. Coomer,
Second.
second measure. Is that Dickerson or Bowman? Bowman. Okay. We stand adjourned. Give me just a second. Okay. Just keep in mind, we're still live on EPB and YouTube. So this is the meeting of the Barren County Public Properties Corporation. This is August 24th, 2021. So I represent the president of the Public Property Corporations. So this meeting is called to order. Ms. Secretary, if you will call the roll, please.
Jeff Botts,
Here.
Brent Riddle,
Here.
Paul Dickerson,
Here. Here.
Tim Coomer, Mark Bowman,
Here.
Sarton, Kenneth Sarton,
Signed off, ma'am.
Billy Houchins,
He's still signed down, stepped away from the camera, ma'am.
Michael Hale.
Yes. So we're just waiting on Billy Houchins.
Yeah. Judge, can you give us about 2 minutes?
Yeah.
I think we all need to step away for a second.
It may take Billy 2 minutes to get back.
Okay, well. Oh, wait.
Do we have 2 minutes, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Tracy, we're ready. Make sure we have everyone.
Mr. Bowman still not present. Mr. Sarton signed plumb off. Here comes Mr. Bowman now.
About Mr. Houchins.
No, sir.
me, Dad, that's Mother. Y'all heard me. My mother's calling, checking on me.
So what we're waiting on is Master Sarton is not going to join us. Master Couchins is trying to get back on. Okay, I think he's on. We're trying to
Judge
connect.
Hale, this is such an important issue. I think Magistrate Sarton should be here for this vote.
We've asked him. He's denied to be here.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I hear a second.
Hey, Judge, I'm here.
Right, okay. So,
when the minutes come up, Judge, and you see where we're moving the PPC meeting up to accommodate the AOC, you're not going to like it. It's in the minute. It's on the tapes where you said that. So we'll see.
well, we still
It's
have,
on the page where you said we're moving the PPC meeting up to accommodate the AOC. It's on the tape. So when the minutes come up next week, I hope the rest of the court doesn't approve them because it's on there.
we have moved the addendum up, which was part of fiscal court.
You said PPC to approve to accommodate the AOC.
Okay.
Okay. So if you change it, that's fine. But I don't agree with the change.
Okay, Carl, I was wrong. So we moved up the addendum.
Okay, you were wrong. Hey, it's a court of record, my friend.
That's fine. That's fine. I said it. I own it. I said it. I own it. Now right now we're in the
So anything we do going forward in this
properties committee, and I'm in charge of this
anything we
meeting.
do moving forward is illegal, Judge Hale.
So next is approve the addendum.
Anything we do going forward is illegal.
You do what you feel like you need to do. Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't like this. This is not right. You need to. Okay. I don't like this.
I'm sorry.
We'll see what's going on here. And we're going to trust these guys. We're going to trust the AOC to build a courthouse for us when this crap's going on. Come on, guys.
So we need to approve the addendum of the memorandum of understanding with the AOC in Barren County for the capital construction project to construct the Barren County Judiciary Center. I'll entertain a motion to approve the addendum to the memorandum of understanding with the AOC.
I'll make that motion.
Master Riddle.
Second.
Second, Master Houchins. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
No.
No.
You're muted. And you're muted and let the record show Kenneth Sarton has just got back on.
Good.
Okay. I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
I don't see we have any choice. Yes.
Yes, Arden.
Kenneth, you're muted. Kenneth, can you
hear me?
Yes, we got you.
I didn't get what you were voting on. I'm sorry.
Yes. So basically, we're now in the public properties corporation meeting, and we are voting on to approve the addendum for the memorandum of understanding with the AOC. And we have a motion and a second, and we're asking, how do you vote on that?
No.
Yes.
Jeff Botts,
No.
Judge Hale.
Yes. Okay, so again, we have a tie. We will take this up. I will just remind the court, or this public properties, the MOU is still in place. that's nothing we can break. So I guess until we get our information from AOC that's required for you guys to make another vote, we'll take this business up next meeting. So I need a meeting to adjourn the public properties.
So move.
Master Couchins.
Second.
Second, Master Bowman. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.